All right, we have Shu for Bright Spark, so that should be entertaining. So take a look at Bright Spark here first, since he's blue. Bright Spark is scripted by Bandit, and I think this AI started out as an AI for HD, and then a few years ago, Bandit converted it into a DE AI, and has added a lot of, I think, eco DSC as well as military DSC, and so it's a pretty strong, aggressive AI. Meanwhile, Corleone's is one of Elias's scripts, goes aggressive and focuses mostly on skirmishers, but also trains some other units, like I think also mix in some archers and other units. It's probably the most aggressive of all of Elias's AIs, so it should pose a strong opponent for Bright Spark. Unfortunately, he had some sheep slaughtering or pig slaughtering away from the TC, so that's unfortunate for Corleone. Bringing in the boar. Hopefully the boar hunting is a bit nicer here. Yeah, so this should be our... That's not bad. Alright, slightly better boar hunting placement for Bright Spark. Boar hunting is always a bit random for AIs. It's really hard to get the AIs to control exactly where the boar gets killed. And Bright Spark already has a lumber camp here in the back. And most of Bright Spark's resources are in the back, including chickens. So I would favor a little bit more of a passive approach in this game. Bright Spark should be able to defend itself pretty well if he needs to. Meanwhile, Corleone has the gold in the front, as well as the stone way outside over here. So, kind of an unlucky resource placement for Corleone, I think, actually. But it does have a nice force in the back if he wants to use that. So far, it seems like both AIs are pretty even. No idle TC. About the same resources gathered, within the difference of just dropping off resources. Alright, so Corleone's adding limb first. But it also might... I don't think Corleone will go to field quite yet. Yeah, add in another villager here. And then a feudal age will come after that villager. And a lot of villagers being sent to wood. I don't know if that's intentional in the build order or not. I would have expected some of them to go to forage bushes. And there's barracks. Barracks from Bright Spark as well. He's also going up to feudal age. Looks like Bright Spark's going to do some long distance chicken hunting. I'm trying to remember what the shoe. Okay, so lumberjacks generate wood in addition to food. In addition to wood, that's the shoe's eco bonus. Makes me wonder if Bright Spark adds any additional lumberjacks to benefit from that, or if he just goes with the same build order and takes whatever future generation from the lumberjacks exists as like a bonus. Corleone adding the archer range and blacksmith, already adding in a spearman. And we got a mining camp right next to the gold. And Bright Spark adds a feudal aid, or an archer range. And a second one, as well as double bit axe. Just taking a look at the eco as Corleone adds a second archer range. It's hard to say. It looks like resources are roughly even at this point. But it looks like Bright Spark is going for archers, which, if Corleone continues to add skirmishers, it could just be... It could turn into a game where Corleone's army counters Bright Sparks, and that ends up finishing the game. Hopefully it's a bit more complex than that, but we'll see. Alright, Mount Bright Spark adding his own skirmishers. I'm kind of curious, does Bright Spark always choose a spot next to the border of the map to gather his soldiers? Alright, Bright Spark has the limit before Corleone starts to attack. It seems like the attack is starting now. We got fletching coming in, so it should be researched by the time Corleone is attacking. Now, he only seems to be sending in... Okay, so there's a few more units. Now, something that's going to be important here is that Corleone has not massed his units together. So if Bright Spark can mass the units together... I also got Bright Spark building a tower here in defense, which could be just disrupted, but it'll probably go up if these villagers... Okay, they're not insistent on getting the tower up. Alright, so it looks like Corleone's units are starting to converge together and group together. Looks like we still have the wild animal issue that a lot of AIs have, and his towers seems to be going up as well. Bright Spark seems to have the defender's advantage here, but Corleone does have fletching while Bright Spark does not. I also got a forward archer range here from Corleone. So I think the tower plus the defender's advantage from Bright Spark seems to be doing the job so far. And it's hard to tell with the units being managed individually, but I feel like Bright Spark might be keeping his units together a bit better. Looks like Corleone is, at least was, successfully like avoiding the tower. But Bright Spark still has the superior military. Also has the superior eco. I feel like at this point, Corleone would need to mix in a few scouts along with his soldiers to be able to kind of break up Bright Spark's military here. Be able to kind of make a difference here. Continuing to attack with archers and a couple skirmishers against Bright Spark's army is probably going to continue in battles like this where they just lose. So at this point, the Corleone's army is just coming in one by one. So I think in a minute or two we'll see Bright Spark's army at Corleone's base. Looks like Bright Spark is wanting to stay passive for the moment. Let's see what happens after these skirmishers get killed off. Alright, Castle Age is coming for Bright Spark as well as Archer Armor. And Bright Spark's armies in Corleone's base. Still got this archer. I don't know if it's a scout. Still got this archer in Bright Spark's town. Looks like a scout. I feel like this dungeon is doing a good job. I think I'm kind of waiting to see if Bright Spark's army stays around this size, or if Corleone's economy drops much below like 25. But yeah, I'm close to calling the game. Yeah, Corleone's economy is flatlined. I'm gonna call the game. I don't know if that tower in Bright Spark's town made a difference, or if it's just Defender's advantage, having a little bit better army grouping together, a better army micro when Corleone attacked. But either way, Bright Spark was able to take the advantage in that early engagement and just keep on pushing that advantage instead of allowing Corleone to recover. Alright, so let's go on to game 2. Corleone goes for Saracens again because of the bonus against buildings. And Bright Spark is either Turks or Bulgarians. And here we go. Alright, so we got Turks for Bright Spark. Let me just change the player names. And I think Bright Spark will find the last of his geese. Yep, there we go. We've got a deer arena. And Bright Spark has most of his resources in the back, which is nice. Meanwhile, Corleone is mostly the same. Found all of his geese as well. The forests feel far away from Corleone, while Bright Spark, the forest seems to go toward the TC. This lumber camp is pretty nice to start out, but I think pretty soon you want to rebuild that lumber camp once these trees are cut down. That lumber camp will quickly be too far away from the trees. We've got an idle scout for Bright Spark. That's probably somewhat intentional, or at least something that happens regularly. Either that or I just seen it pretty often. Bright Spark bringing in the boar. Not the best spot, but it's okay. Meanwhile, it looks like Corleone got a good spot for the boar. And pretty nice spot for that lumber camp. Nicely in the corner here. Be cool if he also built one right here. Also a nice corner. Both might be roughly within range of like a forward tower. But I don't think we'll have to worry about that too much this game. I think we should be bringing that geese back in pretty soon here. Okay. There's going to be like a back and forth with that goose. Yeah, I should have been trying to bring it toward the TC. Similar thing seems to be happening with this goose. Wonder if they're like the scouting DUC for the goose might be taken over occasionally from the behavior that sends in the goose toward the TC. Kind of in danger of these villagers slaughtering it before it gets to the TC. Alright, looks like that goose made it instead. Only because of all these villagers going toward the lumber camp. So it seems like part of Corleone's build order is to send most of his food gatherers to wood at some point. Hopefully that's intentional. Yeah, so I have a guess of which strategy Bright Sparks might use as Turks. I think we've already seen it so far this tournament. Or maybe it was just a different trick AI. Either way, Corleone's in feudal age and should be the more aggressive AI. Has Corleone found Bright Spark yet? The answer is no. I suspect we'll find that Corleone will start trying to find Bright Spark pretty soon here. Range and blacksmith and mining camp added for Corleone. As well as spearmen pushing in the deer. So Corleone has found Bright Spark. And it's got him fletching. So wonderful start seeing Corleone's army starting to attack Bright Spark here pretty soon. If you haven't watched Corleone play earlier in this tournament, you'll know that it basically uses the same build order on Arena as it does on Arabia. Looks like Corleone's soldiers don't avoid the wolf animals and are able to kill them off properly. Alright, so here we go. So we got these walls being attacked. This one? Yeah. So the skirmisher having 3 attack against the wall, which is a lot. You know, I think the spearman just has 1. Yeah. So I think these forge wishes will probably gather just before these soldiers have a possibility of breaking through the walls. Yes, I think Bright Spark Scout is just scouting and not trying to defend. I don't think the scout will open the gate for the Corleone's range units. Bright Spark out in the barracks. That seems like an early barracks for a fast Imperial strategy. So I wonder if Bright Spark might be adapting, or if it's just part of the build order. Alright, we got a tower. Seems like a pretty good adaptation. And this tower is pretty well positioned so that either gate, if it's broken through, or this wall piece, it might force Corleone to go around this way, which is kind of a long way around. No mining camp for Bright Spark yet. Blacksmith, and still waiting for the second building here for... Okay, there it is. We got the market. Corleone's broken through these walls, but isn't charging into Bright Spark space yet. There's an archer range. So it does look like Bright Spark might be going off of or switching off of the Fast Imperial Age build order. Haha. Yes, chat, chuckling at that message. I'm curious, has Corleone found... So it's the only buildings that Corleone has found are these walls. So that might be why Corleone isn't charging in yet. I think once this scout finds something else, they might start going inside. Castle Age a minute away for Bright Spark. Also got fletching being researched, which should help that tower. We also have an army here with a bunch of militia that aren't upgraded. Okay, man-at-arms coming. being researched by Bright Spark. Yeah, it looks like there must not be some code that manually orders Corleone's army to go inside the walls if it doesn't find a better target. Right now, I think we might see Corleone attack the walls until it finds a different target besides this tower. I think if Bright Spark was actually playing more defensively and reacting to this attack, Corleone might be causing more damage and bringing his units in because he's probably exploring more of Bright Spark's town. But this is allowing Bright Spark to build up without any problems so far. Also got a whole bunch of units gathering around this forest. I'm not exactly sure why. Alright, just let me know if you can still hear me. I think I noticed that my headphones mic was being used instead of my actual mic. So, just let me know if you can hear me and if it sounds better. But yeah, hopefully it sounds a little better now. $34 units versus 58 units. I'll be pretty interesting points when both armies clash. Right now we're just watching and waiting. It's quite possible that these towers here, once the battle actually starts, might be able to kill a lot of Corleone's units if the villagers garrison inside. So Corleone can still only see the house, the tower, and the walls. Units continue coming forward from Corleone. No further villagers, so this attack has to count if Bright Spark can respond to it. And also, something I'm noticing is that okay, we got Long Swordsman, otherwise there's no Castle Age upgrades, even though Bright Spark has been Castle Age for quite a while. I'm curious to see if this house will be targeted at some point soon. Alright, so looks like no change so far from Corleone's armies. Alright, so we got a change in behavior now. Maybe because it sees these villagers? Another thing I'm noticing for Corleone is that he doesn't have any upgrades besides the range upgrades. That's probably not important at all because he only has 2 spearmen, the rest are range units. Alright, so here we go. Bright Spark's finally responding. Let's watch this battle here. So in terms of HP, it's about equal right now, with Bright Spark actually having a lead, but he's sending most of his army back. So that actually could have been a bad move for Bright Spark, because he's currently outnumbered. Corleone's bringing in some forward villagers here, which are struggling to attack the wall, or attack the tower. But Corleone has resumed training villagers. So if he can keep Bright Spark at bay here, eventually Corleone's economy could catch up. The second armor upgrade for Bright Spark is in. A late skirmisher could be really big for Bright Spark, but Bright Spark isn't getting that yet. Needs some gold. Yeah, and only 2 villagers on gold, which surprises me. We also got an out of villager here. 2 of them, actually. Okay, now they were assigned. Bright Spark's ahead in military now. Black Swordsman charging in. Alright, so military is in favor of Bright Spark. Alright, so this should be a 1 game for Bright Spark again, but I want to wait until he reaches through Corleone's walls. Just to make sure that Corleone doesn't come back into the game. I don't think Corleone will take Bright Spark's advice. Second armor for the Bright Spark's archers. And annoyingly, it looks like Bright Spark's not wanting to attack just yet. Bandit, would that also explain why the soldiers keep on gathering down here rather than attacking? Because I'm waiting for Bright Spark to attack. I wonder if Bright Spark might be waiting for a late skirmisher or something like that. But just like never getting the wood for it. Also looks like we had a issue with the lumber camp not getting, a second lumber camp not getting built. We finally got this lumber camp built over here. And the first lumber camp was way back out over here. So I wonder what the lumber camp rules are like, if they have a drop site separation distance that's preventing a new lumber camp from getting built over here on this forest, or some other condition that prevents the lumber camps from getting built. But it looks like Bright Sparks, they're just responding to soldiers attacking. But these skirmishers are attacking, but it's going to take a while because they're not Saracens. Alright, stone mining camp. Alright, there's another lumber camp. And another one. So there must have been some sort of setting that was preventing the new lumber camps from getting built, which it finally got unlocked. I see, so just it never got up to 100 wood. Okay. And Bright Spark's skirmishers were led inside. And Bright Spark is pop capped. A ton of TCs. So again, this is very much a game that Bright Spark should be winning. The main reason I haven't stopped the game yet is just because I've seen a whole bunch of AIs just kind of bug out. And then the other AI eventually comes back into the game and wins it. And so in the games that I run, I like to make sure that the AIs have follow through, rather than just because an AI is in a very dominant place. It looks like Bright Spark might be starting to send his units to attack now. But just some of them. I wish I knew why some of the soldiers are not being sent. It's sort of like it's sending them 10 units at a time. Alright, so I think Bright Spark should be able to take it from here, so call it GG. So unfortunately it might have been a case of Corleone's attack bugging out, which is not fun to watch. But that just gave Bright Spark enough time to develop and make a big enough army to fend off the attack.